in this morning, I'm trying to keep on subject of beyond mindfulness, or what next after mindfulness. And this morning I was mentioning just how that many people who come to an event like this are not scholars. They come here because they have had some difficulties in their lives, and how can we use some of these teachings to lessen those difficulties and even take it further into very deep, powerful meditations. And because of that, I did mention that came so close to changing the world by converting the previous President George Bush. But what did I do when somebody did have depression, which is something which people have, quite common. Every time when something goes wrong in life, even I'm sure that the PA manager got a bit scared and depressed that this thing wasn't working. But what happens? How do we deal with these mistakes in life? And so one of the methods which we employ in order to overcome the inherent negativity which arises sometimes in life is actually to first of all acknowledge it and bring it up to our conscious awareness as much as we possibly can. Straight from my teacher, Ajahn Chah. Now, he would actually speak in the local language, and he would use the shit word often, because it meant so much more to ordinary people when he told these similes. And this simile was of the two chicken farmers. There were two farmers who were raising the eggs from chickens. So one farmer got up early in the morning, went into the chicken compound to collect the eggs from the night before. So he took a basket into the chicken compound and he collected all the chicken shit, the little pellets which the chickens had laid the night before, and brought it back into the house while leaving the eggs in the shed to rot. He was thereby stinking out the house, and his family were not very happy with him. Chicken farmer number two, you find out where the story is going in a moment. Chicken farmer number two went into the shed with the basket and filled the basket full of eggs. He left the pellets of shit in the shed to rot. It will become valuable fertilizer later, but you don't take that into the house with you. You take the eggs back into the house, where you can make a wonderful omelette for your family and sell the rest of the eggs in the market for cash. That's a very smart chicken farmer. And the meaning of that simile is this. When you remember all of the things which have happened to you this week, when you collect the produce of your past, what do you put in the basket and bring home with you? Are you a shit collector? Or an egg collector? Why is it when people remember the past, they remember all the terrible, bad things which happened to them? That is like collecting shit. You should not collect that shit. That should stay in the past where it will rot and become fertilizer for something or other. Collect the eggs, all the happy memories and events you've shared today and the last few days. It's like the way we see just how we make one mistake, our partner makes one mistake, or two mistakes, or does a mistake. Well, there's still lots and lots of good stuff there. Don't collect the shit, only collect the eggs for a happy, positive life. But anyway, if you have got those memories from the past, what we do, write them down on a piece of toilet paper in dark brown ink and read it once you've finished with it. There's plenty of paper there, so there's always space, you can put some more in. And then you do what we call the letting go ceremony. And to do the letting go ceremony, There's a special place reserved on campus. Please don't take it to one of the temples, otherwise I'll get in big trouble when, when all the toilets block up in the temples. But take it to the letting go room, where you can go inside the cubicle, but don't put it in the toilet cubicle yet, in the toilet pan yet. Read it again, first of all, just to make it really refresh in your mind. And then you put it in the bowl, and you do the ceremony. I love rituals. All you do is press the button on the top, whoosh, and it goes out of your life forever. Can you do that? Sometimes we can do that, but sometimes some of those things are a little bit too difficult to let go of. Big problems and big traumas. And I did promise someone earlier that I would relate, this method of letting go of some of the terrible things which happen to us in our life, so that we can become free. And this was all developed from a very simple story. Many of the things which I say, simple stories, which are not just jokes, you take them, develop them, and they become powerful ways of lessening suffering in our world. The fact that everyone here, for one reason or another, is damaged, is not perfect. And to understand this, to be able to go into a forest and to go and see a perfect tree. By which I mean a tree which is straight, which is not twisted, which is not damaged, which has got no marks on the trunk. You will search the whole forest, you'll never find a tree which is straight. Every tree is twisted, bent, damaged and scarred from the storms of life. So if you do see those trees twisted, you remember that the damaged people in this world belong. They belong to the great forest of humanity, just like every tree does. And number two, it's not that you ever need to be felt that you are separated, you don't belong, you're excluded, you're stigmatized. No, you belong. And number two, you usually find the most bent and twisted trees, the ones which have the most damage on the trunk. They're the ones which are the most beautiful. They're the ones you go to again and again and again. They're the ones you'd like to have your photograph taken next to. They're the ones you want to have to paint if you're an artist. The bent, twisted trees are the most beautiful. And the meaning of that story, I'm sure you can understand now, is you never need to feel ashamed, excluded by whoever or whatever you happen to be. The opening the door of your heart goes to all beings, but most importantly to yourself, to who you are and your history. You're making peace with yourself. And this is how we can not be harmful to ourselves and other beings. So much harm comes by excluding people. So much stigmatism comes when we label someone as having this disease or that disease, especially the emotional differences which people have in this world. Autism spectrum disorder. Today, earlier on, I was mentioning about LGBTQIE. Sometimes, please excuse me, it's been a long day. But can you imagine what it must be like to feel excluded? To feel different and not belong? Imagine what it must be like to feel that the doctor or some person has called you autistic, ADHD, bipolar, or whatever. and you feel that you're different, that you're excluded. Imagine what it must feel like. And imagine what happens if you feel that there is no such person who's schizophrenic. There's people who exhibit times of schizophrenia, but they're much more than that. As this physician over in Singapore once told me. So because I go to Singapore a lot, and what was it this one physician told me? He said, you wouldn't believe this, Ajahn Brahm, but what is the last part of a human being which stops when you die? The last part of your body which turns off. I always thought it was like the brain, but it was wrong. He said the last part of the human body which dies is the pupils of your eye. Did you know that? Because your pupils dilate. He. He got me there. But but this other doctor, when I gave some talks on mental, they call it mental illness, mental disease, and I don't like that word one bit. But when we're talking about, I asked him, I said, what are you doing in Singapore? What's your speciality? His speciality was the professor of schizophrenia. And so everybody in that island state who was diagnosed with schizophrenia went to this professor, and I said, how do you treat schizophrenia in Singapore? He said, I do not treat schizophrenia in Singapore. When people say the unexpected, you always get very interested. You don't treat schizophrenia in Singapore, and then you're head of the schizophrenia unit. What do you treat? What do you do? And he said he treats the other part of the patient, which is not schizophrenic. And once you understand what he was doing there, you understand, wow, that opens up this huge avenue of insight, of methods, of treatments to take a person who's been diagnosed with schizophrenia and actually look at them in a totally different way, in a way which focuses on the other part of them, not the part which is really ill, but the other part of them. And I knew the answer. Often you ask a question knowing the answer because you just want to say that, it didn't come from me, it came from this professor. And the other part of the answer was, what are the results? So much better than conventional treatment, because you're focusing on the part of the person you want to see grow. If you have got a lazy husband who never does his chores, don't focus on his laziness. Focus on the other part of him, which does do his chores from day to day. And you'll find that part will grow. If you focus on your kid's laziness, never doing his homework, never doing his assignments or whatever, imagine what that does to a person, hearing all this negativity again and again and again and again, to the point that the kid believes they're not worth anything. Ask yourself, if you have children, when you see them, how many times in a day do you praise them? And how many times do you criticize them? Compare. And you'll be shocked and understand why the relationship you have with your kids is not being very productive. If you don't believe me with your kids, try that to yourself. How many times do you criticize yourself during the day? And how many times do you praise yourself? Even here, sometimes when somebody does an amazing job organizing this conference, you say, well done. Oh, no. Why is it that we refuse praise. Criticism, oh yeah, I could have done better, maybe I should have done this. Often we refuse praise, which is mad, it's crazy. So, when people say thank you to me, thank you Ajahn Brahm for saving my life, thank you so much for helping save my marriage, sometimes I say, oh no, that's just ordinary, that's just what I do as a monk. No, if somebody praises you, accept it. Say thank you. I deserve that. Why are you laughing? Because we've got something in our psyche, in our upbringing, we're not allowed to accept praise. If you accept praise, you get a big head. Look, I receive a lot of praise. You don't get a big head, you get a big belly. No, you still get a lot of encouragement to do good in the future. Now, many of these little stories and anecdotes, some of those you do see in the teachings of the Buddha or the teachings of your own master, but a lot of these insights which we get, it's a waste of time me keeping on giving these talks to you every time, because I'm going to die one day. And so the great thing about a teacher is to teach the students to be able to understand themselves so they can teach others. Because a lot of times, the wisdom of Buddhism, the opening of the door of your heart, comes from what is beyond mindfulness, which is called stillness. The stillness is magical. And I will now prove to each one of you how easy it is to be silent. If you never meditated before, you will now discover how easy it is. Because as I am speaking, I want you to be aware of the reaction in your own mind as I'm speaking. Because as I am speaking, you will begin to notice some spaces between my words. In those pauses between my speech, what was happening inside your mind? You were aware, but silent. And in that stillness is magic. It's power. It's freedom. At least a lot of freedom. And imagine, just imagine, you can maintain that stillness longer and longer and longer. Now you're learning that meditation, that mindfulness allows you to trust in stillness. And from that stillness is where we get our insights, where we get our wisdom, where we understand not what other people have taught us, to see for ourselves. Otherwise, you're just thinking old thoughts, going on old ways of thinking, but now you are feeling. Now you are knowing. And this is where much of wisdom comes from. The still forest pool that is your mind. And to make it very clear that because I was a scientist, I still am a scientist, because you do have friends who have taken science to the levels which I would never have expected, you understand, anecdotal experience, that some of the great insights and breakthroughs come not when you're thinking, but when you are still. When insights, new ways of looking and thinking come up, otherwise known as innovation. new ways. A few years ago, actually it's about 2 or 3 years ago, 2015, I received an invitation to go to Daejeon in South Korea to give the keynote address at the 2015 World Computer Congress. If anybody ever saw my computer skills, you'd wonder what the heck is Ajahn Brahm going to give a talk at the World Computer Conference in Daejeon in front of all these executives of LG and Samsung and Google and all these other big companies, together with a lot of experts from the European Union about cybersecurity. And after the president and the host sort of gave their welcoming, to get down to business, now we invite Ajahn Brahm to give the keynote address to all these nerds. And straight away they were looking, what's this guy doing here? And you have to get insight, you've got to see things in a different way. A good example, does anyone know the origin of the ice cream cone? That came from the, I think, 19-something World's Fair in St. Louis. And it just so happens, just like we have a big conference here, you got people just advertising this or selling this, stalls. They had stalls selling food, and it just happened by chance that the stall which was selling ice cream was situated right next to the stall which was selling waffles. And the owner of the waffle franchise, the owner of the ice cream franchise in the St. Louis World's Fair, became friends. They talked with one another, and they synergized. Two different food types which had never come together before now came together. The waffle became the cone of the ice cream, and the ice cream went on top. Such was the birth of the ice cream cone. Two different things coming together, which is one of the reasons why when we have conferences, it's great to have some subjects which have nothing to do with Buddhist conferences, which have nothing to do with Buddhism, to get synergy and different ways of looking. So, this is the simile which I gave to the 2015 World Computer Conference. I held up, it was actually a bottle of water, and I asked people, this is insight, what's beyond mindfulness, using stillness. What is this I'm holding up? Anyone can tell me what I'm holding up? A cup of water, what else? What else can you see? What else can you describe? What else? Yeah, what else? Keep on, come on. Yeah, what else? 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 I won't keep on going too long with this. But when you first are asked, what is this? You say like a paper cup of water or something, and you think you've finished with it. Then now you've completed it, now you know it, now you can go on to something else. But because I asked you, what else is it? To maintain your attention and exploration of this, you can start to see other things, more things, until you soon run out of labels and words to describe what I'm holding up here. Once you've run out of words and labels, then you can start to see things in new ways, different ways, ways which you haven't been taught. Paper, water, cup, heavy, emptiness, whatever, that is what you've been taught. To actually to get insight, to see anew, innovate, to take it further when you stop all of the labels, because you are now still. You're not thinking. You are seeing. You are feeling. You are knowing. You don't give it a label yet. That is where you get great insights from. So I always wondered, where did Ajahn Chah get all his great wisdom from? He only finished grade 4 of school. And he was far smarter than all these other professors which came to that place to ask him questions. Way smarter than a dummy like me who'd only studied theoretical physics, in Cambridge University. This guy, how come? Where did he get all that knowledge and that insight and understanding from? And obviously, because he was still. And in that stillness comes the deep insights, not only of life, but also of the nature of things, and how we judge people far too harshly, how we can't even appreciate and love ourselves, and how things which happen to us in our life, disappointments, that we don't see it in a way which is helpful and useful. Just like once upon a time in Berkeley, there was a little baby spider, and she crawled into a nice home to make a little nest, a web in the corner of the room. And she made a web in the corner of her room. She was so mindful, so much effort, and she was so meticulous. She had an artistic and architectural flair that when little spider finished her web, that web was a work of art. It would make even Frank Lloyd Wright proud if he was that spider. And you know Frank Lloyd Wright? Of course. Yeah, it was this area. He was in San Fran, wasn't he? San Francisco. Oh, Estrada, okay. I only know him from, what's their names? From the song, So Long Frank Lloyd Wright by Simon Garfunkel, yes. And anyway, that as soon as the spider had finished her house, she sat in the corner, in the middle of the web, waiting for lunch to come, because that's how the spiders get their lunch. And as soon as the owner of the house saw that spider web in the corner of the house, the owner took a broom and smashed it to bits. And the spider had to run for her life to escape. And as she ran for her life, she said, "What have I done wrong? I've only built a little web in the corner of somebody's house where they're not really bothered. They never go up to that corner. And I catch all the bugs for them, for nothing, for free. I only just ask for a bit of peace and sharing a house with the people who own this house. Why are they trying to kill me?" But the spider had to run to the next house, where they built another web, not as meticulous, not as artistic, because it didn't have so much time, but made another web, was really exhausted, and at the end of building that second web, the maid saw there was a spider web in the house, and also smashed it to bits. And the same happened in the third house, the fourth house, the fifth house. And after 5 houses, building a little home just so it could relax and eat, the spider became what we call traumatized and depressed. Post-traumatic spider syndrome. PTS. And started to think to herself, life is so unfair. Why is it that people don't? We're not trying to harm anybody. We're just helping people. We don't go into where they want to keep things clean or eat. Just in a little corner of a little room, that's all we ask for. We catch the bugs, but nobody loves spiders. Why are they scared of spiders? So I started to become depressed and traumatized. Even the thought of going into another person's house and building a web started to make it shake. You know what happens in sweat with post-traumatic stress. So little spider thought it was so alone and so hungry and so unloved. The little spider went deeper into depression and couldn't find a therapist for spiders anywhere in Berkeley. So became suicidal. And so began the story of Suicidal Spider. Suicidal Spider was walking down the road, not really knowing what to do except it couldn't stand life any longer, and was looking for somebody's shoes to crawl underneath to commit suicide. But you know when it's like when you're really depressed, you can't do anything right. Always goes between the gap between the heels and the soles. So decided to just go over the road and get crushed under somebody's truck. But every time it went under a truck, it always got between the wheels, never actually underneath them. So poor Suicidal Spider got even more depressed. I can't even commit suicide right. I can't do anything right. Life is so hard. Life is so much suffering and pain. And Suicidal Spider was staggering down the road like a drunk person, not knowing where she was going. Until, have you ever had that feeling that somebody is watching you? And felt, hey, somebody's watching me. And turned around and saw the fattest, happiest spider that ever existed in Berkeley. And I was wondering, well, what are you doing here? How come? And the happy, fat, jolly spider looked at Suicidal Spider and said, what's happening to you? Why are you so upset? Because fat, jolly beings are usually very wise and compassionate. And Suicidal Spider started to say the short, a very tragic story of her short life. 5 homes. I tried to build a home on a little web, and I was smashed each time, and I was so lucky to survive and get out alive, and now I'm too afraid to go to anybody else's house. Life is so unfair. And, hey, said Suicidal Spider, you're fat. You're happy. Didn't anyone ever try to destroy your house? I said, oh, no, not at all. I only built one house, and it's still there, never been destroyed. And he said, well, where can such a house be? Didn't anybody ever try to destroy it? I said, no. And actually, look how fat I am. There's enough food in my house, in my web, to feed both of us. Why didn't you come and live with me? And Suicidal Spider said, wow, it's really fat and happy. But where on earth, I can't figure out where in Berkeley can you build a web where no one ever disturbs you? And Fat Jolly Spider said, oh, in the donation box of Berkeley Buddhist Temple. No one ever disturbs me there. So I was going to say in the Bhikkhuni Monastery in Mountain View, and in that's Karuna Institute, and also in Pengrove. Anywhere else while I'm at it? Fremont. Placerville, yeah. So, please remember, and in South Carolina? Sorry? North Carolina. Oh, close enough. It's only just over the border. New York. So please, there's plenty of room in those donation boxes for the Suicidal Spider, who's now no longer suicidal, and the other spiders, and for your dollar bills as well. So again, almost finished here, but with and any spiders in Berkeley. Berkeley's a pretty rich college, isn't it? Yeah, okay. But that's why you don't find any suicidal spiders. I don't know. Anyway, so that whenever there's any negativity, in your life and things go wrong in your life, please remember that that is a fertilizer for your life. And there are beautiful ways of overcoming that. Beautiful ways of opening the door of your heart. Beautiful ways of opening the door of your heart to others who may have hurt you. Beautiful ways of opening the door of your heart to yourself. And beautiful ways of opening the door of your heart to this present moment. To being here. Sometimes when people talk about meditation, and they feel that they cannot find any peace in this present moment. I'll probably say more about this tomorrow, but why? Why is it that people find it hard to be still? The only reason is because they're not kind to themselves. They don't love themselves, they're running away from themselves. The last little anecdote is of the person who had an afternoon free, and they received a telephone call from one of their associates saying, "Are you free this afternoon?" And you say, "Yes." And they say, "Oh, can you come out for a cup of coffee today? There's this wonderful coffee shop which I found. I know you don't like this type of coffee, but I do, so can you please come to my coffee shop, where we will eat these wonderful diabetic-enriched chocolate chip cookies, and we will talk about politics, not your spirituality mumbo-jumbo, because politics is more important. I will stay there for 1 hour. We'll sit in the corner, not in the front, because that's where I like to sit." And as soon as somebody asks you, or more like tells you, "Please come and drink what I want to drink, eat what I want to eat, talk what I want to talk about, sit where I want to sit for as long as I want to sit there," what would you do? You try and find some excuse to escape, because no one likes to live or spend any time with a control freak. So what you do is you get on your cell phone, your iPhone, and make a call to your doctor or even dentist, because you have to make an appointment sometimes. Say, "Dentist, are you free this afternoon? I've got an emergency." And you make an appointment. And as soon as you made an appointment with the dentist, another friend calls and says, "Are you free this afternoon?" I said, "No, I just made an appointment with the dentist." "Oh, such a shame. I know this wonderful bubble tea shop which you like to get bubble tea from. And they got this wonderful vegan sandwich which is so good for you, and it's just to die for." I don't know why health food is to die for. And I've never been interested in this Buddhism mumbo-jumbo, but you tend to like it. It's good for you. So can you explain to me something about Buddhism and meditation? And when they want to talk about what interests you, and drink what you want to drink, and eat what you want to eat, sit where you want to sit, what would you say? You say, "Sure, yeah, I'm cancelling my dentist appointment. I'll be there straight away." And you sit there, and time just flies by, because you're with a friend who's respecting you. And of course now, hopefully you understand why people have a wandering mind. Why they can't stay still. Because you tell your mind, "Right, you're going to sit still and you're going to watch, say, the breath. And you can watch it for half an hour. You're not going to move. You're going to do it this way, not the other way. You can do it as I want you to do it. Sit, close your eyes, now." That's why you wander away. Because your mind will do anything to escape from you. Even fall asleep. Anything. But imagine that you tell your mind, "Okay, mind, just, whatever you want to do. If you want us to do do some meditation on this, that or the other, meditate on the beautiful girl sitting over there, or meditate on just I don't know, what else you meditate on. If you're kind to your mind, let it be opening the door of your heart to whatever's happening right now with kindness and respect. Then you'll find your mind doesn't want to go anywhere. It stays with you because you have this wonderful sense of acceptance and love. The door of my heart is open to me. So if you fall asleep, okay, it means you're tired. I've been practicing like this for such a long time now that whenever I have the chance to close my eyes and to meditate, it's like I'm with my best friend. I do a lot of talking. I actually talk so much, there's a special therapy group for people who talk too much. It's called On and On and On and On Anonymous. But now, my mind is so happy with me whenever we see each other. Yay, great, let's chill out together, let's hang out together. No effort, but a lot of peace. That's how we stop a wandering mind. And time flies when you're having fun, and people don't want to go anywhere because I've respected you, cared for you, opened the door of my heart to you, as you should open the door of your heart to the people sitting next to you, to life, to everything. May you be at peace and free. That's getting close. Sadhu is a traditional Theravada Buddhist word meaning awesome. So now let's give it everything we've got. 1, 2, 3. Awesome! 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 Very good. Thank you for listening.